各位嘉宾、老师、同学，大家好！这里是2024第2届多伦多大学中国教育论坛人工智能教育分论坛的直播现场，非常欢迎各位的到来。
Honored guests, teachers, and students, hello everyone. This is the live broadcast of Artificial Intelligence in Education, sub-forum of the Second University of Toronto, China Educational Forum, and I would like to welcome all of you very much.
本次分论坛以生成未来生成式人工智能与教师的共创之道为主题，将聚焦人工智能与教师之间的合作与发展，探讨如何通过结合人工智能技术与教师的专业知识与经验，优化教学方式，提升教学质量。
So the themes of this sub-forum is generating the future, co-creation of generative AI and teachers. We will focus on the cooperation and development between AI and teachers, exploring how to optimize teaching methods and to improve teaching quality by combining AI technologies with teachers' professional knowledge and experiences.
我们有幸邀请到了来自中国、加拿大、美国和英国的6位专家学者，共同探讨本次活动的主题。
So we're honored to invite 6 experts from 4 countries and from China, Canada, United States, and United Kingdom to discuss on the theme of this topic.
首先，请允许我按照今天主题分享的顺序向各位介绍今天的参会嘉宾。他们是浙江大学教育学院特聘研究员翟雪松教授，欢迎您。
So first of all, please allow me to introduce you about today's participants and experts in the order of topic sharing. They are Professor Xuesong Zhai, Distinguished Researcher, College of Education, Zhejiang University. Welcome.
多伦多艾琳戴尔中学和多伦多中央中学的教学总监波普先生。
Mr. Paul Pu, the Director of the Arundel Academy and Toronto Central Academy, Director of Arundel Academy and the President of the Global Youth Challenge.
杭州师范大学金亨颐教育学院孙丹老师，欢迎您。
Dr. Dan Sun, Researcher, Assistant Professor, College of Education, Hangzhou University.
牛津大学计算机科学系研究员 Samantha K. Johnston 博士，欢迎您。
Dr. Samantha Kane Johnston, Researcher Fellow, Department of Computer Science, University of Oxford. Welcome.
康维公司 XR 和学习部门的主管 Jeff Holmes 博士，欢迎您。
Dr. Jeff Holmes, the Head of XR and Learning at Conway.
英国伦敦大学学院教育学院和英国国家教学研究院研究员刘谦博士，欢迎您。
Dr. Tian Liu, Research Fellow at the Institute of Education, University College London, and National Institute of Teaching.
本次论坛呢，主要包括主题演讲和圆桌讨论2个活动。下面将开始我们的主题演讲环节，6位嘉宾将从各自的研究和实践中带来他们的见解。
So welcome to all of our guests, and this forum will consist 2 of the main activities, keynote speeches and roundtable discussion. We'll begin with our keynote sessions. 6 experts will share their insights from their perspective of their research and practices.
首先，我们有请浙江大学的翟雪松老师带来他的分享：生成式人工智能加元宇宙融合提升翻转课堂。
So first of all, please invite Professor Xuesong Zhai from Zhejiang University to share his topic on enhancing the flipped classroom through generative AI and metaverse.
Okay, I need to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everybody of you since the guests from 4 time zones, and appreciate Jiaqi's invitations. And I'm very glad to share the current research from my research teams with you guys. And I hope it may be more collaboration, further collaborations with you guys. The topic here is enhancing the flipping classroom model through the generative AI and the metaverse. And my name is Xuesong Zhai from, you can call me Michael, from Zhejiang University. So before this topic, let's see what's the giants doing. I mean, the giants from industry. As you have know that Apple have launched the Vision Pro, the first generation of the Vision Pro last year. It seems that people can view, can mixture the reality and the virtual version from from in same time simultaneously. And we can find the metaverse have very big potential in future educations. And simultaneously, the OpenAI launched the GPTs last year. The GPTs is a good use of the large language model with some specific data sets to make some question and answer be more, how should I say, specifically for some industry, like in education, in medicine, something like that. And I found that last week, the GPT have launched the new generation named 4.0. So I will screenshot the videos for you to see how powerful the GPT used in education. So that maybe cost you 2 minutes. Can you hear the voice?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, I may share the voice. Oh, sorry. Where should okay, that be available for you guys to check it is available for
I invited myself and my son Imran here to try out some of their new technology. So we're curious about how good it might be at tutoring someone in math on Khan Academy. So let's get it started. It's loading up. All right, sure can see our screen.
Actually, in this format,
hello there. I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse? Remember
really,
the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
When the guy gives the wrong answer,
you're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly, well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct. Now that you've identified all the sides relative to angle alpha, do you remember the formula for finding the sine of an angle in a right triangle?
Yeah, I know that the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse.
Perfect. That's absolutely right.
Sorry, it's maybe cost a couple of minutes. I stop here, and you will find that the GPT is not only give you the right answer with some simple Q&A. It help you to induce the students and give some comments on how to get close to the right answer. So we'll find that the GPT is not only give the answer directly. I suppose it's very good for tutoring in the future. Okay, so that's John's doing. It's coming next. So what's the current urgent education requirements? From my part, currently in China, there are three urgent education requirements. The first is the equality of the education, or the educational equality. You will find that the educational sources in urban area and a suburban area is still unbalanced. So typically, we transfer the video from the urban area to suburban urban area to the TV set or something like that. But we found that the students in the distance are difficult to have some collaborations interactions together. So we hope this metaverse could make some to make the gap with it. The second, I find the students are typically, the teachers are typically give the students the right answer, but students need to explore to create their to create the sense of exploration, to bring up their, how should I say, the innovation. So the area-based learning is a good strategies for students to learn, but we find that it's difficult for students to test the areas in some physical context, because in some lab it is very dangerous for students to test some dangerous experiments. But in metaverse, we can try to use some technologies to help, some immersive technologies to help students to test something which may be wrong, or maybe which may like short circulated. It's very dangerous to conduct it in the physical context, but it could be available in metaverse context. And the third, I suppose, for the large language model in education, one of the difficult thing is we do not have, maybe yesterday, the GPT launched the ChatGPT for education, but it's a big steps in the specific database be used in large language model, and we still find that if we specifically into some subjects like mathematics or chemistry, we do not have enough the data sets for training for the educational large language model. That's because we lack of the data sets, the specific data sets. And if in metaverse we can all of these learning behaviors will be displayed in digital formats, so we can collect the data and give them annotation of the students' learning behaviors. So this kind of digital annotation could be used for training with the large language model. And afterwards, you will find the large language model for educational purpose is available in the future. So what we do, my research team have developed a platform that is the last version. So we have some development and update the new versions. So we can give a quick view of this video about what we did. The students in the metaverse can change their dress to make it seem more personal, and they can longer in our campus, and we can set some of the context, and for example, here is the seminar room, and you also can launch the news meeting room, and that is single persons here, but this platform supports the multiplayers, so that is just the records from single person. And you look at this whiteboard, it could display the PowerPoint. You can share like the Zooms, and you also can share your cameras, very vivid and diversified. Here is the lecture hall. We suppose the students from every areas, like in suburban area, urban area, could come together, could listen to the classes together, or they have some collaborations together. The teachers from different sites could also enter into the metaverse, can give a same class simultaneously. So the classes will be changed into the form of the discussion, not give them or not only to transfer the knowledge directly. Afterwards, here is a laboratory. We generate 10 experiments for the primary school students. Sorry, here are some Chinese, but it's from STEM education. Maybe Chen Liu may be very familiar with such kind of experiments. So here is one. I have mentioned as a single persons here, and it is multimedia. It's the multiplayer. So if 10 or 5 people in a group could do this experiment together. And here are some of the functional buttons will be offered here. Yes, this is for the recruitments. Okay, that's it. So how to conducting the generative AI and metaverse in developing FCM? As you have known that a flipped classroom model has been acknowledged as a very effective learning strategies, whatever in high education or K-12 education. But we find that FCM is still lack of the timely and personalized feedback. Because when teachers provide the videos to the students before the class, they will find if they come across some questions or problems, the students may difficult to find the channel to get the right answer, or they may skip it. So even they leave some questions in classrooms to discuss, you will find some teachers will still find the questions are very skin surface, superficial questions. And we find it is possible to create digital tutors in this platform. You can see the digital tutors will be generated here. And if students watch the videos and they come across some question, they may pause this and ask the question through the voicing, and the digital tutors will give the answers here. And if they still wants to get some further requirements, they still can ask further. So if the problem they find is be solved, they can go keep playing with these videos which was offered by the tutor. And so you will find it is some of the simple questions could be solved before the entry into the classes. So the question leaved must be very difficult to deal with. So that is called some, we can say some problems is a very innovative or creative, or we need some deep discussions with the classmates or peers discussion or with their instructors during the class. And I suppose the second question is we lack the robust technical means to track or analyze students' engagements. Since in traditional FCM, although students will be assigned the task to watch the video, but the teachers could less monitor what students interact with the videos. So what's the difficulty they come across and how to deal with it? There's a still lack of the how should I say, teachers are difficult to track the procedure of the student learning before the classes. And the metaverse with the GPT could overcome these difficulties. All of these learning behaviors in the metaverse could be tracked or could be restored in the systems. And here is the specific design of the FCM, the new FCM conducting with the generative AI and the metaverse. So in this research, the students will come into the classroom. Is there any question? Coming to the class before the classroom, the teachers will offer the videos for students, and the digital tutors will give this some supports before the classes. And during the classes, the student here is a look at this picture. Here is some of the informations lived in the system. Before the class, the teachers could get to the information where the difficulties, where the question the students launched, and how the generative AI reply him or her, and so what's going on with their learning behavior, something like that. So before the classes, the teachers can give an overview of the difficulty the students may come across, so they can have some specific preparations for the class during the physical context. So in the picture 3, you will see the students have some interactions to deal with the problems they lived before the classes, and teachers give some support to them. And I suppose the supports will be very, very specific and focused on the questions lived in this system. And finally, we find the students, according to the retentional test and the transfer test, students' learning performance is significantly improved. And we tested, we pursued for the how should I say, the driving mechanisms of why students are pleased to use this the platform. So here is the SEM. We find that the mechanisms of some independent variables and a moderator effective and a mediator effective to the reuse intention of the platform of GBT and metaverse. So yes, and what we are conducting, we still try to generate a navigator tutors in the metaverse. Since previously, the students only watch the video, and if come across some questions, you can refer to the help from the digital tutors. But that we suppose the learning context is a vivid and diversified. So we cannot fix our learning context in one situations. So we make use of the metaverse, the metaverse to help students to go through all of this the museums or the places they would like to be. And if the tutors could be set it as a navigated tutor, they can ask questions from the digital tutors if when they visiting or when they lingering on this metaverse platform. So we find that still it is very interesting for students. And in this, we still do use the generative AI to help students to learn some programming skills. And we call it revised engineering pedagogies, because typically students learn the programming knowledge from very basic definitions and to some functions, and then they develop the app. But we find is inefficient. We try to make students in the metaverse context, if you come across some problems, they can use programming skills to help to deal with the problem. But maybe some of the kids are very lack of the skills in the programming, so they ask the help. From the digital tutors. They can generate this the codes for them, so they can run the codes. But if the problem is beyond their imagination, they also can ask the GBT to help to change the codes or make some small corrections on the codes to meet their requirements. And this should be very gamification. I suppose is a pedagogy called gamification combined with the metaverse and ChatGPT. So here's some pictures we took from some middle school or in Zhejiang University. We recruit some kids to come into us to do the experiments, and the kids are very pleased to join us. The learning perceptions are significantly improved. Yeah, so I suppose the time is limited to 25 minutes. So I suppose any questions from you guys? Thank you. Okay, here is a Happy Children's Day for everybody. Big children, small children. Any question for you guys?
Yeah, our question will talk in the roundtable.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you. 谢谢翟老师，感谢翟老师的精彩分享。那么我这边先。
Okay, you find the video did not play again, so I have sent this the PowerPoint to Jiaqi. Yeah, Jiaqi could circulate the PowerPoint to someone who wants to get something.
Yeah, sure.
From my PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay. 好，感谢翟老师的精彩分享，让我们了解到了生成式人工智能在翻转课堂中的创新应用。那么我们也期待人工智能加元宇宙平台能够为更多的教育场景带来创新。
Sorry. So thank you, Professor Jai, for his sharing. And we have noticed how he and his team developed the Metaverse platform and how this platform could utilize in different scenarios to help different group of students and teachers. And thank you so much, Professor Jai. And I think there were some questions in the discussion later for this. Yeah.
好，下面有请来自加拿大多伦多艾琳戴尔中学和多伦多中央中学的教学总监波普先生带来他的分享。AI 如何影响教育系？我的教学实践反思。
So next, please welcome Mr. Paul Pu, the director of the Arundel Academy and Toronto Central Academy, director of Arundel Academy and the president of the Global Youth Challenge. His sharing is how AI impacts teaching and learning, reflection on my teaching practice. Welcome, Paul Pu.
Hello. Can
Hi.
you hear me?
Yes,
we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my practice. So my name is Paul Pu. So for me, I'm teacher. Also, I'm student. As a teacher, I just finished one of my courses called AI and Business Innovation, which is Ontario Grade 12 course. As a student, I just finished a course from MIT called AI and Business. So I'll just share my experience with what I did in AI and education. About me, my background, currently I'm a doctor candidate in UFT, which in direction education leadership. My research direction is AI and education. I finished my master's degree in computer science from State University of New York. It's 24 years ago. And also got another master's degree from State University of New York in geography. I finished another master in Beijing Normal University. And I got a certificate in MIT, which AI and business. I got a certificate from Harvard with advanced education leadership. I got a certificate from Columbia University, which is value investing. And currently, I'm a founder of director of the Academy and the Global Youth Challenge and several other businesses. So this is my school, the Academy. So I practice my AI in education at my school. So what I did in my practice in AI and education, I led the global GYC 2024 AI and the Future of Humankind Global IT and Speech Competition. I led the GYC 2024 AI and the Future of Our World Global IT and Speech Competition, which each year has 1,000 students from more than 30 countries participate in competitions. I designed and led the Future AI Leaders Camp. I designed and taught the AI and Business Innovation course, and I hosted AI and Edu conferences at our school last year and this year, going to hold this year, July 13th. So here I list my practice in AI and education. So just follow my course. I just introduce how AI impacts teaching, or what AI can do in teaching. So first of all, I use AI avatar as a teacher assistant for content presentation, which because traditionally the teacher just conduct the presentation. So I tried to use AI to conduct presentations. Here I will show, but this is introduction for my course. So with myself and AI. But even it's not me, it's my AI avatar. I will share with you. Can you hear it or no? Okay.
No voice.
Oh, just give me a second. I will reshare. I think I need to share with. Okay, I need to share with sound.
Maybe you can just describe the video and you can share it later with our audience.
Okay, we'll share later. Okay. So here basically I use. I'll just give me a second. Here I use. Just give me a second. Just quickly. Whatever. Okay. So basically here I just use avatar to just conduct presentation, and which handle different part, I'll share that now. Okay. Also, I use AI to generate the content. So this is, for example, for teach programming. Here I use in ChatGPT. I say, how can you generate a Python program for quick sort? That takes user input. So right away, and the ChatGPT generates code. My background is computer, so before I teach programming, to write this code actually is difficult. Or I copy code from somewhere, or I write it by myself. If I write this code for myself, it takes about 20 or 10 minutes to make everything correct. But with ChatGPT, so I want to teach programming. Because my course and just also teach some programming with a student. So I just take this about 1 second, I get a code. This is a Python code with a quick sort. So right away, I copy it into Google Codebook, just copy it, execute just 100% without any modification is correct. So it saves a lot of time. So we can use AI to generate whatever content right now. I think it's mostly right now teacher use. Also, if we want to know each line what it is, we can ask AI to explain line by line. Okay, so it's very, very convenient. It will save a lot of time. Also, we can ask, ChatGPT generate whatever, for example, generate lesson plan. So can you generate a lesson plan for Michael Porter's competitive strategy? Okay, for example, here, just right away, it'll generate lesson plan. Then just we can modify whatever little bit, then we can use right away. So here is we copy it here. So ask generate this. I just practice what I did in my class. Okay. So I asked ChatGPT generate the lesson plan for me. So ask ChatGPT each time it give a different thing. This time it not generate not create, just give some explanation. Okay, so here. So it's right away to generate lesson plan. So after that, based on lesson plan, maybe take about 5 minutes, 10 minutes review, then we can use it. So this is generate a 90 minutes lesson plan, how to teach. I think that I look at the lesson plan, it's quite practical. We can use it right away with minor modification. And this is generate a lesson plan. Also, I use ChatGPT generate a test evaluation. For example, here I ask generate a multiple choice, 5 multiple choice questions. So basically, as a teacher, we know it's very difficult to make evaluation questions and whatever test. And so here, if we just copy to ChatGPT and right away it'll generate multiple choice questions. After that, just review, maybe do some minor modifications. So here it generates questions, 5 questions, and give you answers and explanations. So for me, I just review the questions, 5 questions. I think maybe some question I need to modify, maybe some question that make much sense. In this case, we use our professional judgment to modify. Okay, I use it for content generation. And also, I use AI softbot serving as a teacher assistant and education consultant. And I lead the student develop AI softbot. So here is I develop. So because by this, student know what is AI softbot. So this is a link. So here, so I can ask, okay. So for example, I click it. For example, I ask some questions about our school. Okay, so I ask, hello, can you give me some descriptions about the tuition of the Arendelle Academy? For example, I ask some questions about our school. Okay, so I ask, hello, can you give me some descriptions?
Sure, I can provide you with information about the tuition fees at the Arendelle Academy. At TEA, the tuition fees vary based on the grade level and the course load of the student. The tuition fees cover academic courses, enrichment activities, and support services provided by the school. If you need more details or have any specific questions about the tuition fees, feel free to ask. How can I assist you further?
我用中文试一下啊。多伦多爱林在中学要收书本费吗？书本费是多少钱？
在多伦多艾琳达尔中学，学生不需要支付特定的书本费，不过学生需要支付每门课程的学费，学费金额会根据学生所在年级和选课情况而有所不同。
So it answer me in Chinese. So this is we build this kind of soft bot. We can build as an education consultant and teacher assistant. So right now I tried with student, I tried with our customized data, our school, tuition fee, all access, everything regarding school, it can answer. I can try with my course data, then it will work as a teacher assistant. It will work as teacher assistant. So this I use AI soft bot for teaching. Also I use AI robot for teaching. So I use AI robot serving as a teaching assistant to enhance student engagement. So here, and I have video. So we build this robot from scratch, and which we can talk to robot, or we can use a gesture to just guide the robot how to work. Go back, go just turn right, turn left. So in this case, we use this as a teacher assistant. We use this to engage learning, and so this video right now I have something. Okay, so you see this student, so they just use a gesture to guide the robot.
So yeah,
But this kind of robot we built from scratch. Okay, so also we use another level. Here we use this kind of robot and for student engagement, so we can talk to robot.
Do you know
the
about
University of Toronto sounds like a great place. Did you know it's Canada's largest and highest ranked university?
Okay, so this is we use this robot to just enhance engagement. This is what practically I used in my class. And right now I want to go another level. Right now I just ordered this called Now AI. Now is it's a more advanced product. It can work in classroom, whatever, to just as a teacher assistant. So this is I use AI for different levels. So I still want to play this one. I think it works, just need loading time. And so this is practically for teaching what I'm using. Okay.
The AI and Business Innovation curriculum is developed with a focus on cooperative learning, employing inquiry-based methods, and integrating knowledge community and inquiry methodologies. Our goal is to craft a dynamic and engaging learning environment. To this end, the curriculum is structured into 5-step roadmap: knowledge book, collaboration book, case book, assessment book, and experience notes. Together, these components form a comprehensive roadmap for navigating the complexities of AI and business innovation, ensuring a rich, interactive educational experience.
Knowledge book. This foundational segment, curated by educators, provides
So this
students with
AI
access to critical theories and concepts essential for understanding AI and business innovation.
Collaboration book.
So this another
Aimed
avatar.
at fostering group engagement and collaborative learning. This section
book.
encourages students to participate in inquiry-based activities. It offers a platform for exploring new ideas and sharing discoveries, thereby enriching our collective knowledge base.
Okay, so I divide AI 5 AI avatars, present different kind of content for my course. This is for teaching. Practically what I use in my class. I use avatar for presentation. I use AI content generation. I build a soft bot, work with students, build a soft bot to customize course content and school situation. Student practice how to build it. And I use AI robot in different level to engage student learning engagement. So how about the learning? So we about the teaching. For learning, we just look at the student voice for learning. Here I have a student survey about the course. So just quickly and look at couple questions for student survey. So here, this student survey report. So how did ChatGPT or other AI tools influence your creative thinking when prepare your project? Okay, so this is 35%, so significant increased my creative thinking. Somehow unengaged, enhanced my creative thinking. This is people discuss a lot, for student, AI make you lazy or AI make you more creative. So this is student response based on survey about 417 students. Okay, so this is, so here, many different questions. I don't have time to go all of them. This for my course survey for this. I think first question is most important. And so another question is, when you have questions, whom do you first attend to for answers? So this, I ask student, if you have question, what you're going to do? Because when I talk to student in my class, I say, okay, guys, if you have a question, don't come to me. I'm your last choice. Okay, you first choice. You have a question. Your first choice should be, okay, ChatGPT, Google. Your second choice should be your classmate. I'm your last choice. I'm your last choice. Okay, don't just have a question directly come to me. So after the class, I give survey. I say, when you have a question, who you going to first? So about 59% students they go ask ChatGPT. Okay, 82% is a search engine. Okay, this is the answer. So this is student voice. And for me, I'm student too. I just mentioned I just finished courses from MIT AI and business. For me, I think AI makes students more creative because you talk to AI in more high level communication. How you can communicate with AI? In this case, you need to be knowledgeable. Otherwise, just copy. So this case, I think for us to learn some code and the prompt engineer is very important. It's very important to make you smart how to talk to AI. So I just mentioned quickly 1 second about challenge. I think I have 4 minutes. The challenge is, for me, after I came to Canada, teaching in different levels. So for me, I never give a closed book test. So always my class is like a open book, open eyes, open mind. Okay, so I don't have any closed book test. So when I taught this course, I do the same thing. I say, okay, I don't have classroom, I don't have closed book test or whatever. Okay, everything is open. Open mind, open eyes, open book, open internet, open everything. Okay. But the challenge is while doing this, okay, so I found, okay, with ChatGPT, with AI tools, some student, I give you a question after 1 minute, they give me answer. They're so fast. So it's challenge. So yes, some students just use the tools to copy. Okay. So after that, I must change my method. So I just give one closed book text. I say, okay, no book, no internet, no cell phone, nothing. I give test. So this is a challenge. Another challenge is for students in my class. Most students from China, from Vietnam. So it's the kind of challenge makes them to collaboration, to discussion as a group, because most students they just used to just work by themselves. So I put a lot of efforts to lead them. It's a challenge how to make them to discussion, because with AI, the most is just we say it's kind of how to use AI to just inquiry-based learning. Basically, we just keep ask AI question, discuss with AI, discuss with a small group. For this course, I divided students into 5 different groups with 5 different companies. How to grow the company, use AI technology, make the company more competitive with other companies. So this is what I'm doing. So I found it's a little bit hard for collaboration for Chinese student or student from China, from Vietnam. Okay, so this is basically I just share what I did in my class. Okay, thank you, everyone. Any questions?
Thank you, and I think our question will be discussed on the roundtable part. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 感谢波普先生的精彩分享，让我们了解到了在中学教师实践过程中，人工智能对教师的一些挑战、思考，还有一些实际的应用。再次感谢您，波普先生。
Thank you, Mr. Popo, for your sharing. And it's really interesting to see how AI, especially generative AI, applied in middle school teaching, their applications, their reflections, and their challenges. It's really interesting to see that survey. And thank you again for your sharing.
下面让我们有请来自杭州师范大学的孙丹老师进行分享。他分享的主题是 ChatGPT 应用于之前教师程序设计学习的实证研究。
So next, please welcome Dr. Dan Sun, researcher, assistant professor, College of Education, Hangzhou Normal University, to share her topic on an empirical study of ChatGPT applied to programming learning of pre-service teacher. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I hope it's good. Right, so now I guess everyone can see my screen, right? Okay, so good morning and good evening. I'm Dan Sun from Hangzhou Normal University, and now I'm assistant professor. And it's really an honor to present my study here and sharing some of my experiences. So today, the topic of my sharing is an empirical study of ChatGPT applied to programming learning of pre-service teacher. So this paper is already published. So if you are interested, you can scan the QR code, and on the left and the right code is my personal website. So if you want to know more about my research, you're so welcome to look up for it. So let's move on to the topic. So the research background is we know that ChatGPT's efficient code generation capability enables it to assist programmers in various tasks, such as the code perfection, document generation, and etc. But we know that for college level learners, who I teach for, they will encounter a lot of challenging or difficult things during the programming. So this study is to explore the impact of ChatGPT facilitated programming on pre-service teachers' programming behaviors, performance, and perceptions by comparing two kinds of learning modes. So the one is ChatGPT facilitated programming, we call it CFP mode, and the other is traditional self-directed programming, we call it SDP mode. So actually the difference is like the traditional way students are look for the refer to their textbook or the online web engine, etc. But ChatGPT facilitated group, they are facilitated by ChatGPT. We applied, actually we offered a website for them. So specifically, we have these following 4 questions. One is for the programming behaviors, programming performances, and their user experiences with ChatGPT, and their perceptions of ChatGPT. So this research is conducted in one of my course called Python programming course. It's like in 2022 spring, sorry. And we applied a quasi-experimental design to compare the differences among two groups. So there are totally 39 learners in the SDP class and 43 learners in the CFP classes. So except for the ChatGPT, the other content remain the same, and I am the instructor, and these are my students. So we actually designed 3 phases and 5 instructional sessions. Each session lasts 80 minutes. And so the first and second session, students are received instructors lecturing with oral presentations and Python demonstrations. And then they will follow by their self-directed practices with the programming tasks. So the third phase is students are required to complete text by themselves. So the text is radar chart within 100 minutes. So actually we cannot, student cannot access to ChatGPT here. So we applied a platform for them. So the platform this is an open project in GitHub. So we just deploy it. So students, they can just type in their questions here and it will get the response from ChatGPT. So this experiment is conducted in 2023. So at that time, we used 3.5 and now we allow students to use GPT-4. So, and we collected students' platform logs and record their computer screen videos. So actually, in total, we have 40 minutes per learner, so resulting in a total of 3,208 minutes of data. So for the data, we actually use a video analysis, use a recently coding procedure that adhered to a previously approved coding framework, which is used by myself in 2021. So actually, we divided students' behaviors in these into this code. For example, the understanding tasks, coding in Python, and etc. So these are the description. So for the data, we employed sequential analysis to assess the behavioral pattern. And we also evaluate their programming behaviors by assessing their programming assignments. And also the semi-structured post-class interviews with students to know about their experience of using ChatGPT. Of course, these are only conducted in the CFP group. And fourthly, we also collected their use a questionnaire to gather their perceptions of ChatGPT. So these are the results. So the first, we proved the impact of CFP on pre-service teachers' programming behaviors, as we shown in the picture. So the left is the students in the SDP, is a traditional class, learning class, and the right one is ChatGPT facilitated mode. So the code represent their behavior, like I showed before in the table. So the number represent the frequency of this behavior, and also there are several lines between different nodes that represent the students' behavior. For example, start from CRC to like this to UPC, and the transition strength is 0.1 and 12. So this is not a very strong one. But from these pictures, we can compare their programming behaviors. So we actually write a summary of this table. So for the SDP mode, students engage more in reading feedback from ChatGPT and understanding Python code. And they also show a high frequency of code debugging behaviors. And students are more likely to debug Python codes and receive error messages or check radar chart. And they often paste error messages to the ChatGPT and ask new questions. The third is like they prefer to copy and paste the codes directly from the browsers into their current codes and debug to test the correctness of the borrowed codes. So and the students in CFP mode have a higher frequency of code debugging behaviors compared to STD mode. They frequently copy and paste codes from ChatGPT, debug to test their correctness, and then read error messages. And they prefer to directly copy and paste Python codes and error messages from the output console window to ChatGPT, and etc. And they also encounter technical problems which may caused by our platform. So the other is the differences in programming performances. So the post-intervention analysis revealed that CFP group students achieved a higher average score compared to the STD students, but there are no significant differences between two groups. And also about the students' user experiences about utilizing ChatGPT in CFP group. So actually, we found these three themes. The first is the services offered by ChatGPT and the stages of ChatGPT using and experience with ChatGPT. Actually, we can find quite interesting results. Especially in the third places. So first two are students are saying they're using ChatGPT for programming specific services. For example, they asking for the specific Python code, etc. And we can see the third one, experiences with ChatGPT. The students are the first four actually is the advantages mentioned by students. They think ChatGPT could provide expansive programming knowledge and contextualized and varied response, and accurate and efficient feedback, and more, it's like a human-like interaction. So they compare it to a traditional way, like if they search in Google or Bing, it would take more time for them to find the more contextualized problems they encountered now. And of course, the Google won't apply like, okay, you did a great job, or sorry, I'm wrong, etc. So students feel like it's good. But they also mentioned the inaccurate codes, limited input and output, also technical problems, also which are the disadvantages in using ChatGPT. And lastly, we analyze students' pre-service teachers' perceptions towards ChatGPT in the ChatGPT facilitated group. So actually, students regarding perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and intention to use were significantly higher than the pre-test perception of these variables. So actually, we think the students students think ChatGPT could bring benefits, or they can benefit from using ChatGPT in programming. So we also come up with some implications of this study. The first is that instructors should plan and implement AI-based educational resources and systems carefully and thoughtfully. And also we found that a prompt established the content for the task, and constructing an appropriate prompt is crucial for them, because students are mentioning, some students regard ChatGPT as a not very useful tool. We found out it is because they are using it in a wrong way. They did not ask the very appropriate questions for a more complex programming project. So the other is, during the programming process, instructors need to integrate effective strategies for utilizing ChatGPT. And also they should monitor students closely for instance of academic dishonesty. So actually we found the students copy and paste the code from ChatGPT very often. We cannot say all of them are dishonesty, but we need to be aware of this. So and also we found some students found the inaccuracy in the code generated by ChatGPT limited its effectiveness, which may also lead to another problems. So for developers, actually they can also consider integrating a framework of heuristic guidance in ChatGPT that is modeled after Socrates' method of questioning. So actually, that means instead of giving students direct answer, actually we can modify the large language model to guide the students step by step. Like they will ask students questions when they receive questions from the students. So in this way, to help them to grow, cultivate their problem-solving skills. So the picture shows an example of Socratic tutor. And also the student, of course, the study have some limitations. For example, the limited generalizability due to the specific version of ChatGPT. Because now we are using ChatGPT-4, so we found a more interesting results using GPT-4. And also we need to consider the significance of instructional prompts and similar learning tools in the future. And this study only lasts for 5 weeks. That this is a not very long time. So this is also one of the limitations. So, but in total, it's justifiable to assert that ChatGPT and AI tools have the capacity to function as powerful tools for teachers and students alike. So, augmenting the pedagogical experiences in programming. This is the published papers, and the right are the paper related to the study. So if you're interested, you're so welcome to read the read the papers. Thank you so much. This is my sharing. You're welcome to ask questions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sun. Yeah, Also, we also had the discussion on the roundtable part. So, 非常感谢孙丹老师的精彩分享，让我们了解到了之前教师在编程学习中应用我们的生成式人工智能的一些他们的行为以及他们的经验。那么，
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dan Sun, about your sharing empirical research on this long period programming courses, because we know it's really hard to conduct long-term educational research, and it's really valid. Thank you so much for sharing that.
接下来呢，我们有请牛津大学计算机科学系研究员 Samantha 博士进行分享。他的分享主题呢是与年轻人共同制定元宇宙道德准则。
So next, we would like to invite Dr. Sam Kane Johnston, Research Fellow, Department of Computer Science, University of Oxford. She's going to share on the topic of co-creating ethical guidelines for the metaverse with young people. Please, Sam.
Thank you so much, everyone. Just confirming that you're able to see my screen and you're able to hear me.
Yes, we can perfectly.
Lovely. All right, well, I am quite honored to be here to discuss my project on Project Amplify, which is really around amplifying the voices or elevating the voices of young persons when we consider the development, the design and the development of the metaverse. So really, I'm taking a step back and looking at what are these ethical considerations. So in the talk today, I will provide a narrative overview of the study that we conducted, along with some of the reflections and implications from this entire experience. So just to give you a bit of background, the research was conceptualized and it was implemented in Jamaica. And I am originally from Jamaica, even though I am based in the UK. And one of the issues within the Jamaican context is that oftentimes students are not given the opportunity to really vocalize or have meaningful conversations about their perceptions around artificial intelligence, around the development of artificial intelligence, and more specifically with the metaverse. So this is a context within which we're operating. On screen here is Jamaica Vision 2030, which is our national development plan. And the whole idea of that plan is by 2030 to make Jamaica the place of choice to work, to live and raise families. So it was launched in 2009. And as a long-term development plan, it hasn't really taken off. In fact, in the 1990s, the government of Singapore came to Jamaica and saw our national development plan, went back to Singapore to implement it. And every time I look at Singapore, I think about the fact that this is what Jamaica could potentially be like, even though we're a developing country at the moment. So really one of the key things in that plan is really looking at how can we align different areas when it comes on to science and technology, and really merging that with social inclusion. So one of my very dear friends, Cordell Green, who is currently serving as the UNESCO chair for the Caribbean and Latin America, in 2023, he said the key to fully understanding AI and really ensuring its equitable benefits is through collective dialogue and collaboration. And so looking at these different sayings, these different inspirational requirements for Jamaica, I thought to myself when I arrived in Oxford is, how can I give back to Jamaica? How can I really elevate and amplify young persons' voices? So I started to think about how can we think about what does the future of responsible design of digital environments look like? What could that look like? So I started to have some conversations with a colleague who I know from a very long time ago, who is pictured here on screen. And I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge the coordinating team of Project Amplify. So Christopher Durrell is my very dear friend, and together we started having conversations around what does responsible and ethical artificial intelligence look like for the future, and how can we bring Jamaica into the conversation around that? So we started to think about different plans, different funding opportunities, and I also must acknowledge Sharika Wilson, who is the head of People's Operations. So together, we started to think about this question, and I collaborated with Youth Can Do It, which is or YCDI for short, which is a local organization in Jamaica. And together we worked together to bring students who were already a part of this organization on board to really elevate their voices. At the time of that discussion, Jesus College in Oxford, which is I'm a fellow at Jesus College, they were quite interested in this scope, mainly also bringing voices from the global south into the discussion. So I'm very thankful that they provided the funding to do this project. So we conducted this project across 4 phases, and it was started in February 2023, and we ended this year in February 2024. So today, I'm really going to bring you on a journey of what happened throughout that entire year and some of the key points and principles that we co-designed together with these young students. So firstly, we wanted to make sure that it's a participatory approach. So we wanted to identify what are students' concerns about the metaverse. And just to say something about the metaverse, the reason why we decided to go with the metaverse is because the YCDI organization in Jamaica, they were already working with the metaverse. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was, because we know there were resource issues coming from a global south context, we wanted to make sure that we worked with something that was meaningful, that was already in operation in this context. Then we moved on. We wanted to make sure for objective 2 to make sure that the students had a say on the insight in what an ethical metaverse could look like. Co-designing, of course, the ethical metaverse guidelines, which I'll share a bit what we came up with. And with any project, it's important to reflect on the experience. These were the questions guiding our discussion or project. So what are children's primary concerns regarding engaging with the metaverse? What guidelines should inform the design and development of ethical metaverse spaces? And then finally, how do children perceive the design and development of the experience with which we engage them with? Before I continue, I think it's important to say what is exactly the metaverse. In fact, persons tend to ask me, okay, we're speaking about the metaverse, we've heard about it, but what exactly does it entail? So there are a variety of definitions about what the metaverse is, and these are some of the key guiding principles that underpin how in our Project Amplify we conceptualize the metaverse. So firstly, it must be a shared space where other persons can join, and that shared space must be immersive. So typically you enter through a virtual reality headset. Of course, the environment must be interactive, and typically you are represented by avatars. You can see yourself on the screen just like we're seeing ourselves here, but by and large, it's typically represented by avatars. And I will return to this point around avatars much later on in the conversation today, because this came out as one of the key nuances or complexities, especially from a global south perspective. So this is a metaverse this is YCDI's metaverse that we engage the students in. These are some photographic visualizations of what it looked like. And for me, this was actually, even though I worked in digital environments, this was the first time that I actually had a focus group session in the actual metaverse with students. So this was relatively new for the students themselves. So we met in the metaverse to do what we call a temperature check. And this really helped us to understand our first research question, which is, what are children's primary concerns about engaging in the metaverse? And because of the participatory nature of the project, this phase 0 was important because it really guided what we spoke about in subsequent phases. We wanted to make sure that the themes that we focus on were areas that were of concern to the students. Of course, we brought our own professional vision into what we wanted the students to discuss, but we also wanted to honor and respect their voices. So we started in February 2023, and the metaverse space that we used was enabled by Mozilla Hubs, and we had 10 participants between the ages of 9 to 15-year-olds. And we took a semi-structured approach where we asked students about these concerns. So on the right-hand side, you can see the main issues or the main thematic areas where students were most concerned about with using the metaverse. The number one being access and inclusion. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later on today. But that wasn't quite surprising for me, because a lot of times, especially in the Jamaican context, we don't see ourselves being represented, particularly even in the nature of the avatars. Students spoke about the importance of looking at things like digital well-being. Of course, privacy and data protection was a big issue. And I think the reason also for that was because at the time when we were conducting the research study, Jamaica was just implementing its first Data Protection Act. Initially, we were just being led by the UK GDPR, but now for the very first time, Jamaica had a say or something on the table around implementing its own Data Protection Act. And this study really fed into informing what these ethical guidelines for the metaverse could look like from a Jamaican perspective. Of course, the students were concerned about things like deceptive design. They didn't use this term deceptive design. They used terms such as, AI trying to trick us or technological developers trying to trick us. And we know the more formal term is deceptive design. Then we moved to our phase one, which was quite important. So we had facilitator training. So in addition to working with these young students who were in high school in Jamaica, we also wanted to bring along university students along the way. And the main aim for that is because as organizers of the project, even though we had expertise in different fields, these facilitators were able to help us to connect more clearly with the younger generation. And so we wanted to train students along the way. So we had a combination of students, university level students from Jamaica and from Jesus College here at Oxford. And we essentially brought them through 5 interactive workshops of how do we co-design with young people. We spoke about ethical design. We spoke about things like digital identity and rights and safety and well-being. So they were fully equipped because their role was to help us as organizers to facilitate the students in this co-design session. We moved on to phase 2, which is looking at, what guidelines should inform the design of the metaverse. And we now worked with the young students. So in these sessions, they were divided in 2 parts. So we had virtual interactive sessions, and then we have sessions where we were actively designing these ethical guidelines sessions. So it spanned between May and July. So we met every Saturday. So on one Saturday, we would invite experts who would train students on co-designing, on digital rights, well-being, etc. And then the weeks where we didn't have the training, we met with the students and we actively went on Google Jamboard, for example. So on screen here is a screenshot of some of the things that the students came up with the guidelines. So I'll talk a little bit about what we did in both of these sessions. So in the virtual interactive sessions, we had trainers from a wide section of society. So here are some examples from these trainers, which most of them are my colleagues really. And I invited them to speak to the students through 1 hour interactive sessions. So we had 14 in total. This is just a cross section. So we had Dr. Alison Mishkin from Google, who really does a lot of work with policy development. My other colleague, Alexia Hassey, which I've collaborated with from Harvard, she does a lot of work in the metaverse. And Don Carson now owns Mighty Coconut, but he was instrumental in designing what we see, these Disney characters. He designed, played a key role in designing. And we wanted to make sure that these trainers were from across the world, both representing people from Africa, such as Jen, who is from Kenya, but global North and global South countries. And one of the things that we did to prepare these trainers was that we shared with them some of the concerns that students had in that temperature check, that first session that we had in the metaverse. But at the same time, we asked them to just use their own professional vision, still shape it in a way where students, you were addressing students' concerns, but bringing your own experiences. And it was very fruitful for us to see how students interacted. They were quite excited, especially by Alison, who is from Google, because previously she worked on Sesame Street. And in Jamaica, we watch a lot of American cartoons. And so they were quite excited about that. And then on the weeks when we didn't meet with the trainers, we got students into a youth lab, and we said, and I'll explain what a youth lab is and why we chose that, to really design these guidelines, to think about what they learned, both in the sessions with the trainers, but also for their own research on AI and metaverse development. So I'll speak about some of the things in the interactive sessions, which usually spanned 1 hour and 1 hour to 15, 1 hour and 15 minutes each week. And then after each session, we would have what we call a retrospective session, where we ask students to really reflect, what could we have done better? What did you particularly enjoy about it? So I wanted to pause to say something about the different ways of interacting with students when we talk about AI and metaverse, but AI more generally, and co-designing broadly. So my colleagues from Harvard, if anyone is interested on call today, they published a really comprehensive guide on designing and co-designing with young people. And they provided 4 different ways through Youth Lab, Learning and Co-designing Spaces, Youth Board, and Participatory Research. Now, the reason why we chose, for example, the Youth Lab, and this is just a breakdown of what the article says. The reason why we went with Youth Lab in Project Amplify is because the main aim of the Youth Lab was to make sure that students felt as though they were in the driver's seat. And we did that. We equipped them through the expert sessions that we had with them. We encouraged them each week to go out and research around AI, around the metaverse, and they would come back to teach us adults new skills and new things that they've learned. Sometimes we've heard about some of the things that the students came back with, and on other occasions, these were completely new to us. So this is what distinguishes the Youth Lab from a learning and co-design space. In a learning and co-design space, it's more led by adults with expertise. And even though in our space, we did have the expertise, we wanted to make sure that the students were in the driver's seat. Then you have Youth Board, which is what we tend to see. It's more market-driven, where organizations like the World Economic Forum or major brand name organizations or companies such as Gucci would invite young people into their board meetings to tell them what are the trends, what are young people interested in, so that they could improve their market and profitability. So that wasn't really applicable for our context. And participatory research, we didn't go with that because that would have taken a longer time to train children in how to conduct research, even though we did do a bit of that, but it wasn't necessarily where children were shaping the research questions, so to speak. So we went for the Youth Lab, although I must say there were some elements of learning and co-designing and participatory research. But if we were to class what our space looked like, it was mainly from the Youth Lab. So in this Youth Lab, what did we do? So each week we said to students, you have a discussion board forum, and we added them to the local organizations forum, where they could come and they could post what they were learning about artificial intelligence and the metaverse more broadly, and even their thoughts and reflections on what they learned in the expert session. So we invited them to reflect through, and we also have different blog posts that they were writing. When we met with them, we made sure that the curriculum was really responsive. So our young people, or young facilitators, these are the young people from Jesus College and Jamaica, and we made sure that the curriculum was really engaging, really responsive, and I'll share some of the strategies that we use. But we included what we call also member checking. So member checking is a best practice in research, where you constantly, every week, check what the students actually know. So it's a bit what we do in real classroom settings when we do feedback and formative assessments. But in the world of when we're designing things, when we're doing things like video studies and technological oriented studies, the term that they tend to use is member checking, making sure that there's a shared understanding between the organizers, the university facilitators, and the Jamaican high school students. And then, of course, we engage in this process of iterative co-designs, and some of the strategies that we use, they were influenced a lot by the expert trainers. For example, the person from Google, Alison Mishkin, she said that at Google, what they would typically do when they're developing different policies for content moderation, they would get around the table and they would say, how would the public break our rules? So we did sessions like that in these ethical guidelines, when we're thinking about moderating content and issues around free speech and those sorts of issues, if we implement something from a technological perspective, how would people break our rules? And by doing that, we think 2 steps ahead so that we could program or technological feature in a more robust way. But not only that, we could then also design representative guidelines to guide that rule. So these are some of the things that came out clearly in our discussions and our guidelines. So we just currently finished our report, which will be published in the next month. But these spotlights are some of the things that we came up with in we have around 12 pages of guidelines that we co-designed with the students. So they spoke about privacy and data protection. And one of the things that they said is we should use metapods. So metapods comes from this idea of solid pods. That was pods means personal online data store, and it's being developed by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web 35 years ago. And this idea is to make sure that people have more control over how their data is shared, how their data is accessed. So the students decided to use that concept to say, not only using solid pods, but using metapods because it's the metaverse. Of course, when it comes on to autonomy, they said we should make sure that people are in the know-how in terms of terms and conditions. People never read terms and conditions. So this should be mandatory to improve people's autonomy and sense of what is being shared about them. But still, because my background is critical thinking, and I said to students, can you think a little bit critically about making something mandatory and how that contradicts autonomy? Because autonomy means you have choice. And if you're making something mandatory, it means that you might not necessarily have a choice, which actually reduces your autonomy. So we ensure that students were thinking critically. We spoke about human flourishing. Each time somebody enters the metaverse, we should start with a mental or a well-being check. Inclusivity and accessibility were big points, as I mentioned previously, because the kids were very surprised that even though in the world of technology at the moment, there's big discussions around inclusion and access, they were very surprised that there wasn't a lot of diversity in the avatars that represented themselves as a person. So it's important for them to see that sort of representation. However, in thinking critically, they said to me that maybe while they improve the diversity in the avatars, this is actually beneficial for them because they can have some level of privacy because nobody would ever figure out it was them because the avatar doesn't really represent them anyways. And then finally, we looked at dark patterns, developing things like meta trust indicators. If you're reading something that's generated in the metaverse by generative AI, can we really trust that? And so they came up with a system where you have maybe numerical figures to represent what that how trustworthy the content is that's being generated or given to them by generative AI. And then we got them into the space in person. So everything was online up to now. And then we met in Jamaica to allow them to use these guidelines to develop their own metaverse spaces. So these are some visualization of the kids on screen. We had to teach them about web development, and a bit of that was facilitated by ChatGPT in terms of coding. And what was really interested in is even though all the guidelines that we came up with, we said to students, you can essentially choose which guidelines you want to use to develop your own space. And they said most students gravitated to using human flourishing and well-being. And of course, we engage them in sessions to really facilitate or foster their creativity while they were designing. So we did short stories with them and asking them to imagine themselves as a designer for a day, or even some problem-solving activities. And these were some really cues. We'll make these openly available to people who are interested, but these are just short scenarios that we implemented in these sessions of design to really foster and induce their creativity. And then finally, we reflected with the students and we said to them, what was your experience like throughout the entire 1 year process of engaging and developing and designing these guidelines? And so for them, it really redefined their notions of privacy and autonomy. We realized their thinking moved from one where they weren't thinking that we're going to keep our data to ourselves, because a lot of times in the field, when we think about privacy, people tend to think they want to hold on to their data. We don't want to share it because people can use it against us. But we realized that students' mindset actually changed throughout this time. And they thought that, okay, data can actually be used as a force for good, but we want to make sure that people are respecting our preferences for how we might like to share our data. We also talked about what is wrong versus what is right. So implicit in any discussion about ethical guidelines is what is a right ethical guideline, what is a wrong ethical guideline. And students started to think a little bit more critically about this, because what might seem wrong to us might be right from another cultural perspective, and vice versa. So we started to have this conversation as how technology can be designed in a way to fairly represent people's views across cultures. And we came up and we really call upon this term around thick alignment. It comes from a professor who was a deputy assistant to Joe Biden in the US, who talked about how we should align and immerse ourselves in different cultural backgrounds to make sure that we're not thinly aligning people's values to technological design. It must be a thick alignment process. And then finally, of course, it spoke about representation matters. And when I say representation, I don't only mean background, culture, representation in people's thinking processes, which is oftentimes left out of the conversation. So broadly, and we can have these reflections in the roundtable session. We started thinking about redefining notions of co-design, which Yumang and I, we submitted a paper around thinking about co-design from a learning perspective. And this really, fostered some greater nuances in me while we're preparing that paper. Of course, we have to think about critical thinking. Oftentimes people think about critical thinking skill, which is your ability to evaluate and analyze, but we don't oftentimes think about critical thinking disposition, which is your willingness to use a skill, which is something that we wanted to foster throughout the design of this program. And also more broadly, some of the things I'm thinking about today is how do we create fair AI in an unfair world? And part of my answer for that is participation equity, meaning making it equitable or creating equitable experiences for people from diverse walks of life to be able to represent their views in research. And this is one of the things that we wanted to do today. So finally, as I come to the end of the talk, some of the broader things that we're working on at the moment, these are some of the publications that we had recently from a CHI workshop, is talking more broadly around child-centered AI beyond ChatGPT, but looking at it from an ethical perspective and how we might be able to empower people with a sense of data autonomy. So I'm part of a IWADA research group, which looks at building more ethical web architectures for people, not only young students, but the public in general. And we're ably led by Nigel Shadbolt, and of course by Tim Berners-Lee, which really looks at this idea of solid pods, which I just mentioned previously. And this is one of the big research studies that I'm working on at the moment, which is the digital autonomy machine experiment, which is essentially giving people, children and the general public, when we talk about AI and sharing of data, how can we put the power back into the hands of people? So the next steps is that we had a session in Jesus College. We invited the students over, and these are some visualization of what we did through the program. We visited the UK High Commissioner to Jamaica, and we presented the findings there. And also we're in discussion with the City University in London around how we can collaborate with them. So thank you so much for listening today. And for me, going forward, I am really excited to talk about how we can not only design spaces in an ethical way, but how can we change people's minds along the way by facilitating more critical thinking in the design of generative AI, of metaverse, and just technology in general.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Samantha. Thanks for your sharing. 感谢 Samantha 博士的精彩分享，让我们对制定元宇宙道德准则有了我们的看法，以及他如何将优质的教育资源分享给牙买加的青少年，以及让我们听到牙买加的声音，促进了我们人工智能教育时代的教育公平。
Thanks, Sam, for sharing that, and it's really deep research, I would like to say, to know how you think not only about how generative AI and metaverse should be, but also how can we co-design with youth, listening to them, their values, and think about their critical thinking when designing new technologies. Thank you so much.
好，下面我们将有请 Covin Covin 公司 XR 和学习部门的主管 Jeff Holmes 博士进行他的分享。他的分享主题是个性化学习时代的设计参与。
So next, we would like to invite Dr. Jeff Holmes, the head of XR and Learning at Conway, sharing his topic on participation by design in the age of personalized learning. Hi, Jeff. You've been muted.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly.
Oh, great. Perfect. Yeah, I guess I'm not in control of the mute button, so great. And you can see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, hopefully the audio will work. Hi, everyone. It's great to see all the participants here, especially from Toronto. That's my original hometown, actually. Now I'm living in Texas, but it's great to see everyone. I'm excited to be part of this event, and it's been wonderful to hear all the innovative ways that AI has been researched and used in schools. So my name is Jeff Holmes. I'm the head of XR and Learning at Convey Technologies. Convey is a company that's building a platform to make it easy to bring intelligent behavior to 3D avatars in virtual spaces. So my talk will be focused on some ways that we can think about using these AI-powered characters to make educational settings much more interactive and participatory. So specifically, I'm interested in creating intelligent tutors that can really have the potential to change how students learn. Before we get into the tutors themselves, though, I wanted to spend a little time just reviewing where we are in terms of creativity and AI. Over the past 2.5 years or so, we've seen incredible advances in AI technologies, as some of the previous presenters have noted. Most people are familiar now with generative text through systems like ChatGPT and similar models for creating images, incredible images now in all different styles. But beyond that, now we're getting a lot more modalities of generative AI. And so here's an example, and we'll do a little test here, make sure the audio is working. But here's a way of creating voices. And before it used to be that you could create voices in sort of asynchronously, but now you can actually create them in real time, making conversation possible. So here's just a text prompt and an example of the quality of voices that can be generated now.
So, Emmy, what do you notice about the leaves of this tree?
Did you guys hear that okay?
Yeah, we can hear that. It's fine.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's also possible to create sound effects from just text prompts as well. And here's an example of something like that, where the text prompt is this rainstorm with thunder. So incredible. Other groups are working on music generation, and the fidelity and quality of the music now is pretty amazing. And here's just another simple example. Move this out of the way here. So both instruments and voices are generated in the music with incredible quality. Finally, one of the things I'm most excited about for creating virtual worlds is the ability to more easily create 3D objects. Traditionally, this has been a difficult part of and time-consuming part of requiring a lot of expertise. And now it's possible to start creating these 3D objects that can be used in virtual worlds with just a simple text prompt. And many of you have probably seen the incredible videos coming out of models like Sora from OpenAI. Here's an example of a model that's created just with a simple text prompt again. So dog in Italy. Incredible detail and attention to geometry and sort of the realisticness of it. So that's just some of the ways that generative technologies or AI technologies is really starting to become available to everyone. So I wanted to talk about some of the characteristics that can make a personalized tutor really powerful. We've had expert systems for quite some time, and they've made it fairly easy to get answers. Most people use Google for this. But an AI tutor can be conversational, which is really key. A back and forth conversation allows you, and even, I guess, encourages you to dig deeper and explore questions that are personally meaningful. So as Sam pointed out in her presentation, enabling students to vocalize their thoughts and feelings is really critical. So the generative capabilities of AI mean that their responses will be personal and specific to the student's unique questions. So these AI tutors can engage students in ways that are much more human-like than a simple text interface. They can bring patience, empathy, and even humor at a level that's appropriate for the learner. Another really important aspect is the ability for these tutors to have memories. Having both short and long-term memories means that interactions with a tutor aren't limited to a single session. This allows for a relationship and ongoing understanding between the learner and the tutor that can develop over weeks, months, or even years. And finally, another cool aspect, I guess, of AI tutors is that they have the ability to role play. So it can take on, beyond being a tutor, can take on the role of being something like a historical figure, for example, and talk to students in a way that brings history to life, further engaging students to dig deeper into topics. And speaking of history, let's talk about the affordances of virtual worlds. So with these 3D spaces, students can engage and interact, navigate at their own pace, making their own discoveries, but within a guided framework. Realistic simulations let students experience historical events and scientific phenomena firsthand, enhancing understanding and retention. Virtual collaboration enables teamwork and communication, regardless of the student's location. And it's also easy to customize learning paths that can adapt to individual student needs, providing a much more personalized experience. And finally, low-risk experimentation encourages innovation and deeper learning in a safe setting. So I feel lucky to be working for a company like Convey, because what we're doing is building the kind of tools that help democratize the process of creating virtual worlds and intelligent characters that can become learning partners and tutors. So I want to talk a little bit about how Convey works and then show you the process of creating a character, and finally give you a quick example of some interactions between a student and a tutor in a virtual world setting. So what we're focused on is making ways to create the mind of a character. So in this case, of a tutor. This means combining conversational abilities of a large language model like OpenAI's ChatGPT with the ability to craft a character by creating a backstory that shapes the personality and style of the character. So sometimes there's specialized or local knowledge that you want the character to know about. So we have something called a knowledge bank, which allows you to provide that information to the character. This allows you to upload information about a specific topic or place that you want the character to know about. For schools, it's really important that we have strong guardrails in place. These ensure that the characters not only avoid responding to hateful or inappropriate language, but also potentially or proactively steer the student back onto the right track. So guardrails are crucial for keeping students engaged in the topic at hand. Another great feature is that these characters can speak more than one language. You can give each character in Convey up to 4 languages, and they can switch between them for students that are multilingual. I also mentioned long-term memory previously. I think this is a really important aspect of engaging students and creating more powerful tutors that understand students' preferences individually and growing knowledge over time. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on how to create the characters, but I did want to give you an overview of the process so that you have an idea of how it works and how easily different kind of characters can be created. So keep in mind that characters don't have to be in the role of a tutor. They can take on any kind of personality you want with specialized knowledge. So you can imagine incorporating several different characters, for example, into a recreation of a significant historical place. So on this page, it's a place on our website where you can give a character a name, choose a voice, and then create the backstory. The backstory, as I mentioned before, is where you shape the personality of the character. And the one that's defined here is the character that you're going to see in the upcoming video example. So it's a tutor around the use case of investigating the water cycle as a science concept. I mentioned before that characters can speak up to 4 languages. Currently, we support about 21 languages, and we're adding more all the time. We're trying to reach as broad an audience as possible. Another thing you can do on this page is add custom pronunciations so that the character can pronounce special words, such as unusual people or place names, something that's been traditionally kind of hard for large language models to do in terms of speech generation. And there are a bunch of other features that we don't have time to go into today, but I did want to touch on personality traits. This is another way that you can shape the personality of a character beyond what's in the backstory. So with this tool, you can adjust how open the character is, how extroverted or introverted, and so on. This provides a way of creating characters that students can relate to in a more human-like way. Okay, so let's bring this all together and see how this might work in a real example. So the first step is creating the characters I mentioned on the Convey website, shaping the personality, creating the backstory, and uploading any personalized or specialized knowledge that you want the character to know. Once you've done that, then along with selecting the voice and language, the next step is to get an avatar for your character. Many of our demo projects come with characters that you can use straight out of the box, but there are lots of alternative free and paid options for creating custom avatars that you might like to incorporate. What Convey does is is basically build plugins for popular game engines and environments for creating 3D worlds. So things like systems like Unity, Unreal Engine, and Omniverse, and so on. The idea here is that you bring your 3D avatar into a world that you've created in these 3D engines and connect it to your Convey character with a simple character ID. Okay, so that's probably enough of the process. Let's take a look at an example here that I put together in Unreal Engine. Before we jump into it, I just wanted to point out that the character in the video that you see is based on a backstory here. As Dan's son noticed earlier, tutors can take on the role of a Socratic teacher, and this is what I've been trying to accomplish here. So that nothing in the conversation in the video is pre-scripted or sort of set in stone in any way. All the behaviors and actions of the tutor happen just based on the backstory and a few simple location-based prompts in the 3D world. In other words, it's not that complicated to create a character that's sophisticated and a knowledgeable tutor. In the video, I've added some labels to highlight some key capabilities of the tutor. All right, let's try to take a look here and play. Can you hear the audio okay?
Yes.
Great.
Hey, Jeff. Ready to dive into today's topic on evaporation?
Okay, hey, can we go check out the river?
Sure thing, let's head to the river. All right, Jeff, looking at the river, can you tell me how it plays a role in the water cycle?
I guess it takes water from the mountains.
Good observation. And what happens to the water in the river over time?
Does it flow into the ocean?
That's one possibility. What else might happen to the water in the river, especially when the sun is shining?
Oh, I see what you mean. Some water would evaporate?
Exactly. And where does that evaporated water go?
It forms clouds.
Right on. And those clouds eventually lead to what kind of weather event?
You mean like rain or snow?
Yes, exactly. So, how does that connect back to the river?
I'm not sure. Can you give me a hint?
Sure. Think about where the rain or snow goes once it falls back to the ground. How does it eventually reach the river again?
Oh, I see. So it's like a cycle where the water falls on the mountains or land and then flows into the river.
Exactly, Jeff. It's all part of the water cycle. how does the presence of wind or the level of humidity in the air influence evaporation?
So if it's higher humidity, then more evaporation happens?
Actually, it's the opposite. Higher humidity means the air is already full of water vapor, so less evaporation happens. How about wind? How do you think it affects evaporation?
Does it speed it up?
Yes, exactly. Wind helps move the water vapor away, allowing more water to evaporate.
Oh, you mean if water vapor is stuck at the surface, then it slows it down?
Precisely. Wind helps by moving that water vapor away, making room for more evaporation.
So evaporation only happens at the top of the water.
That's right. Evaporation occurs at the surface where water molecules can escape into the air.
That makes sense.
So, what do you think happens to the sponges we placed in different locations?
That's a good question. Let's go to the forest and check them out.
Great idea. Let's head to the forest. All right, looking at the sponge in the forest, what do you think might affect how quickly it dries?
This one seems still pretty wet, so maybe because it's in the shade?
Good observation. How does being in the shade affect the evaporation process?
I guess it slows it down.
Exactly. And what might happen to the sponge in the open area compared to this one?
I bet it dries faster. Let's go to the open area and check it.
Let's go see. So, Jeff, how does the dryness of the sponge here in the open area compare to the one in the forest?
This one looks a lot drier, but how can we measure it?
Great question. What method do you think we could use to compare the moisture levels of both sponges accurately?
I'm not sure. Do we need a special sensor?
A moisture sensor could work. But what simple method might we use without special equipment?
I thought about squeezing the sponge, but if it's dry already, then no water will come out.
That's a good start. How about weighing the sponges before and after they dry?
That's a great idea. Yeah, we should do that.
Perfect. That way, we can see how much water each sponge lost. Ready to give it a try?
Well, I wondered if we could go and check out the mountains first.
Sure thing, let's head to the mountains. How about we observe how water flows down from the mountains into the river? It could help us understand runoff and its role in the water cycle.
Great. So you can see that she loves talking about the water cycle wherever she goes. So that was just a quick and simple demonstration of how a tutor might engage students in a virtual world setting around a science topic like the water cycle. Obviously, these 3D worlds can and the types of activities can be a lot more complex and engaging, but I hope this gives you some idea of the potential. In the example, we saw the tutor acting as an expert, but also critically, not just directly answering the students' questions, but instead providing hints and suggestions, right? Asking probing questions, helping the student make connections, and dig deeper than they might do so in a traditional setting. So notice that the characters also have scene awareness, meaning that they understand where they are and what they're looking at. So they can be really good learning partners, providing encouragement and support at the right times. I wanted to finish off with some thoughts about the role of teachers in the age of generative AI. Clearly there's a threat to the old way of doing things, but I hope most teachers will see this as a positive development. One of the great frustrations in teaching is having too little time to spend individually with students and too much pressure to bring all students along at the same pace with the same material or content. So my hope is that some of these tools will free up teacher time so that they can interact more individually with students. One aspect that we didn't get to here, but I'd love to discuss some more, is the role of AI teachers and tutors in assessment. It turns out that these large language models are also very good at creating summaries and reports. So you can imagine these same tutors could create a summary of the conversation, like the one we just had, detailing where the student had gaps in their knowledge or needed more help. I've also been exploring these use of these types of characters as teaching assistants. So you can imagine a scenario where a teacher might have a conversation about a student's progress with the tutor and work collaboratively with the AI to design a custom activity personalized to each student. So, well, thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to any questions and our panel discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jeff. Thank you for your sharing. And yeah, 非常感谢 Jeff 博士的分享。然后从 Jeff 博士的分享中呢，我们看到了 XR 还有我们的智能导师在教育中应用的潜力和它的创新。那么再次感谢您。
So thank you so much, Dr. Jeff, on sharing this really fantastic product. And I can imagine the huge potential of it on the personalized education, especially for science education and like sustainability education. So it's really amazing. Yeah, thank you.
下面呢，我们邀请来自英国伦敦大学学院教育学院和英国国家教学研究院的研究员刘谦博士进行分享。他的分享主题呢是在对话空间中共同开发集体智慧和教学创新。
So finally, we'd really like to invite Dr. Tian Liu, Research Fellow at the Institute of Education, University College London and National Institute of Teaching, to share her topic on the co-development of collective wisdom and pedagogical innovation in dialogue spaces.
Sorry, I think I shared the screen, but probably it may, yeah, okay. So now I can share my screen now. Great. Wonderful. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Chen. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here to share my some understanding around dialogue and also my previous research and experience. I feel like today's the presentation from our panel speakers are really thought-provoking because we already have mentioned some very interesting ideas and concepts related to dialogue, for example, like how to design prompts and also dialogue assessment, connective dialogue, and also in the metaverse, the space, people share like the very interesting multimodal interaction, one-to-one dialogue between student and a mentor. That is brilliant. So my today's topic is about co-developing collective intelligence and pedagogy innovation in dialogue space. So here you can see 3 objectives. So the first one, I'd like to explore some like the conceptual understanding around dialogical space, education dialogue. And also I'd like to introduce like the dialogue perspective, especially how the perspective can be applied to research and practice. Secondly, in relation to today's panel's topic, AI and the teacher professional development, I'd like to share some ideas around dialogical approach to teacher professional development. And based on that, I would also share some my previous research, my PhD research completed at University of Cambridge. Thirdly, by combining my previous the theoretical sharing and some of the example, I'd like to talk about some of my personal reflection and especially implication for future PD in an age of AI. Okay, so now first let's talk about what we mean by dialogue. So dialogue, I know in Chinese, especially Chinese nation, people may think that it can be interchangeably used with talk, conversation, and discussion. But I would say actually it's more than talk, conversation, and discussion. It's not just limited to oral language or speech. Actually, it comes from dialogical philosophy, and Bakhtin, a Russian philosopher, he said like if an answer doesn't give rise to a new question, it falls out of the dialogue, and there is neither a first nor a last word, and there are no limits to the dialogue context, which means that if we are in dialogue, actually the process is always ongoing, and knowledge building should be ongoing and continue. And secondly, he said like I hear voices in everything and dialogical relation among them. So for example, I saw previous examples like some interesting, the outputs on the Google Jamboard. Actually, there is no oral language, but students still express and share their ideas with each other. Thirdly, truth is born between people collectively searching for truth from Bakhtin. So here's the important thing to be noticed actually related to knowledge construction. Knowledge should be constructed collectively by people or even with technology. So here, in summary, when we talk about dialogue, actually the key point is voice in dialogue are equally treated, which may reflect our previous ideas in terms of equity and inclusivity, and involve in a collective, critical, and creative ways, leading to mutual illumination and collective intelligence. So I know many of you are very familiar with it. This is Tai Chi. And I think that it's really useful to use Tai Chi to explain what we mean by dialogue, especially in a dialogical relationship. So here you can see yin and yang, black and white part. Actually, they are changing all the time in a dialectical relationship. But the relationship, I want to say, is ongoing, dynamic, contextual, multi-voiced, and collective. More than that, so when we say dialogue, we don't only just to say, okay, we need more diverse viewpoints or ideas or voices even from AI. But more importantly, when we understand or make sense of the different ideas, it's really important to think about the ideas from both inside out and outside in, the dual perspectives to understand, and always the understanding should be contextualized. And here I just briefly talk about what I mean by education dialogue. When dialogue, the concept applied in education context, for example, classroom. So here you can see there are 4 important characteristics. They are active participation, critical and creative engagement among students or between teacher and students, and co-construction, again, knowledge co-construction, and hopefully through like the different engagement, we hope like some of the new idea can be generated from dialogue. Okay, so now let's move on to the very important concept here, dialogical space. Dialogical space, this concept actually was raised by Buber, again, like a Russian philosopher. And he said dialogical space means a space of the in-between. And later on, Wagner built on this concept, and he said holding together of the different perspective in the tension of around a gap of difference, which means like the dialogical space may be generated when you have like the different ideas and have the gap of the different perspectives. Thirdly, it's really important, this space should be a shared space, which means like here people, participants, and the panel speakers, we are in the same space and like in the same time. This is a shared space, and we bring in our like the different perspective, ideas based on our previous experience and knowledge. So because we share our ideas, of course, there are some different and even conflicting viewpoints, but this actually can be communicated and can be even, in a collaborative relationship, new learning can occur. So people may ask, okay, dialogical space, this concept seems really promising, especially in the education context, and very important for us to understanding and even for having a relational sense of being in this world. So what is the role of digital technology? So I think the previous speakers mentioned and also showed a lot of like the diverse affordances of the technology. Affordances here we mean what can be done and what cannot be done by technology. So some example we can see from previous example shared, like the visibility, mediated interaction in the metaverse community, and the multimodality, representation, different ways of the representing ideas, manipulation, revisiting, and the provisionality, like the which means like the we can change or edit things throughout the time. And so Wegriff said, I think the list is really inspired me as well. So the appropriate use of a digital technology can really open up, make the dialogue space open, and expand and deepen dialogue space with infinite new possibilities. So here I'd like to share two very concrete examples from my previous study. And on the left side, you can see these are students' contributions. So in a primary mathematics classroom, so they were studying around, okay, so what is a circle? And actually, they shared their ideas during and after the classroom. And you can see like the actually knowledge here, the form of knowledge is not just limited to like the, questioning and responding. So they can choose like the whatever format they think that appropriate for representing their ideas. And the peers can also give comments, ask questions, all the time. So this can really show like the knowledge it actually is collective constructed by people, and the construction process is ongoing. And here you can see another example. Okay, so I just go back. So what is the boy doing actually? He was going through like the his peers like the previous post about how to calculate the area of the rectangle. And then he was recording the key facts in terms of length and width of the rectangle and how many unit squares the students used, and then and also the area of the rectangle. This key concept in the table. And then he was trying to find out the underlying pattern of calculating the area of the rectangle from like this concrete example. So this interaction with the technology and also like their peers' contributions can really help this boy to understand, from like to generate like the abstraction thinking in mathematics from very various concrete examples. Okay, so we talk about dialogue space and also the role of the technology in opening up, expanding, and deepening dialogue space. So people may ask, okay, so why do we need PD the professional development for teachers for technology-mediated dialogue teaching? I think the key point here is from potential. We always talk, okay, technology may have the benefits, may have these perceived opportunities, but in practice, from the theoretical potential to realization, pedagogy is a paramount, is a key, rather than we cannot achieve any outcomes, learning outcomes. And also we know like so when integrating technology, the classroom practice to education practice can be very complicated. In addition, research and also practical examples about PD studies for technology-mediated dialogue teaching are very lacking. And also from the literature, we learned like the PD related to dialogue teaching with digital technology can offer a lot of benefits, like the students' enhancement in mathematical learning performance, and also their reasoning, problem solving, conceptual understanding in mathematics. More importantly, students' enjoyment and motivation can be also improved when teachers use like dialogue teaching with the digital technology meaningfully and appropriately. And also, again, on the other side, we know like in the Chinese classroom, in primary classroom, especially in mathematics, there are indeed some issues. For example, teacher dominance, inactable passive descriptive student participation, and the lack of the engagement between students' ideas. So based on this, the overall research purpose of my PhD study is to design and implement a one-year PD program for Chinese teachers. And under that, the two subset goals are: one is to support Chinese primary mathematical teachers dialogue teaching with interactive platforms such as Padlet. And secondly, I really hoped to foster students' active participation and their dialogue engagement. So from the literature, because the whole overall underlying principle, this study is based on dialogical theory. So I employed like some of the dialogical approach to PD. So for example, PD should be designed and should be in responsive to local needs. So which means like the designers should have like some kind of textual awareness and responsiveness. And teachers' needs, we should notice like they are always changing. So then the PD design should be very flexible and the goals are level fixed, especially when PD starts, going. So in this sense, actually, I personally don't really like some of the, predetermined design. Some intervention study may do that. So, and also very importantly, teachers, we should consider them as a change agents. They are co-designers and co-developers. We never teach them how to do. They co-develop the practice. They know well what the classroom is like. So we build knowledge together. And the teachers are natural experiment in practice. So that's the reason why iteration, trialing with a reflection are really important elements in PD design. So based on this, the reasons, especially the design, the dialogical design principles to PD, I employed a design-based research. So this type of the research methodology can really help to improve education practice through iterative analysis, design, development, and implementation, based, very important here, based on collaboration between researchers and practitioners in real-world setting. So usually there are three stages: preliminary phase, development phase, and assessment and reflection phase. So it sounds quite like the intervention study, the pre-intervention, post-intervention. But the key difference here is like we may change like the intervention while assessing it. So that is the key point. And also the intervention in DBR. So researchers and practitioners collaborate with each other. Yeah. So if we focus on development phase and then focus on the what we have done, so zoom in that. So here is like the how PD went from like the design and the refine PD and the researcher, and then we may analyze outcome, reflection, and identify problem next steps. And the next step plans were informed by the problems. And in this implement phase, actually, I combined like I integrated lesson study model into the DBR research approach. So lesson study, I believe like most Chinese teachers must be very familiar, 课例研究. So the key ideas behind the lesson study model is lecture collaboration between teachers, so they can plan, teach, or observe, evaluate, and revise a research lesson. And teacher agency and collaborative inquiry, choice, and reflection are very three key components embedded in lesson study model. So why to combine them? first, compatibility between DBR and lesson study, and also more importantly, so if I integrated the lesson study in the DBR, actually they gave like the complementary benefits, for example, including making the lesson study model more tailored to a specific context and to a specific group of teachers, and closer research practice connection. More importantly, while teacher participating in this PD, actually they just note, change their practice. So they actually improve their inquiry stance and research capability. Specifically in lesson study, because the PD was conducted in 2 primary schools. So I used a parallel lesson study. So you can see what PD activities have been done, and especially how the 2 schools worked together. So people may ask, okay, the decision on parallel lesson study, is it just because 2 schools? I say partly, and more important, because I think 2 schools, the involvement of the 2 schools can really generate, again, a dialogue space and foster their exchange of the knowledge and the dialogue engagement during the PD. That is very important. I just quickly share like the outcomes of the list design. So you can see like the understanding or teachers' understanding have been significantly improved, and also some significant increases in dialogical teaching practice. So I don't want to go through them due to the time limit. And more importantly, from this study, so we here mean like the researcher and the group of teacher, we co-developed a pedagogical framework and teaching strategy, especially while using online interactive platform for dialogical engagement. And also we finalized the design principles for the PD aimed at fostering technology-mediated dialogical teaching. So people may be wondering like how to evaluate dialogical practice. And I think I just like to share like this framework. This is open source, and you can find them from the Cambridge Center of Educational Dialogue. It's called TCEDA. So here you can see some of the codes. So if you have the more interest in developing like the dialogue between teacher and a student, or even between the generative AI and a student, so this code can be applied to your research context and suit for your research purposes. I don't want to go through all the feedback, but let's focus on the last one. So one teacher especially say like in this model, the DBR, while combining DBR and the lesson study. So she said like, I'm not just a participant who was told what to do, observe and assessed. So the research activities like the coding and observation, these were the immersive experience, and those activities informed me of the steps and the methods of undertaking small-scale research logically and systematically in practice. So which means like the teacher did not just benefit from the pedagogical innovation while using interactive platform. So she also improved her research capability and her inquiry stance. So for this study, some of the reflection and implication, the contribution, I would say actually this is an innovative research attempt to combine DBR and lesson study for PD, especially the PD aimed at technology-mediated dialogical teaching. And also the research evidence has shown actually the model is a feasibility and effectiveness. In response to the focus of today's the panel discussion, so I would say the DBR-led lesson study model could be used for the future PD with the generative AI, especially when we consider these key components, including collective inquiry, knowledge building, iteration, research-informed trialing, and evidence-based reflection. Secondly, I would say especially in the age of the AI, I would say firstly, teachers and the student dialogical mindset and the intention is very key. For example, when interacting with the ChatGPT, it's really important to think how to ask right questions and meaningful questions suited for your purpose. And more importantly, when the generative AI give like any response, how to respond to them and how to further questioning. So all the process is a dialogue, the dialogue process, especially in nowadays. So we know the advent of the AI multi-agent. For teacher may consider like how to design the different roles in the classroom and how to assign these roles to AI agents. And then from the dialogue perspective, how to better design a workflow and collaboration between AI agents and the students. I think all these are very important to consider in the future PD design and development. And also we may think like from developers' perspective, how can we use a technology or AI to create a technology more meaningful and actionable technology-enabled dialogue space? Can generative AI can be used in along with like some of the social media or along with like some of the online interactive technology? So that's a key question we may consider again. Lastly, I would like to share this picture. That's really inspiring personally for me. So I would like to draw on quantum entanglement. I feel like the education practice and maybe the education technology AI is always in this relationship. So they are interacting with each other, and hopefully they can create a very infinite possibility. So yeah, it's a dialogic like the way of the thinking their relationship. So last 3 questions may leave to the audience and all the participants. So in relation to generative AI, so do we think about how generative AI supports existing educational models? Have you considered like how can generative AI spark new educational models? Or do we really want to actually co-develop the new edtech for new promising education for all? So I think that is the 3 questions. Actually, I always think this. And lastly, just to say like the education research, again, it's an ongoing and open-ended global dialogue. So what we share like is not fixed. So always we seek the truth together in dialogue. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Liu. Thank you for your insight and sharing. Okay, and 再次感谢刘谦博士的精彩分享，他让我们了解了对话教学的应用，以及看到对话教学在未来人工智能教育应用中的潜力。
Thank you so much, Dr. Qian Liu, for your sharing on how to say co-creating maybe new knowledge in the dialogue spaces, which is quite new to me and is really reflective. So thank you so very much for your sharing, and thanks again for all of our guests sharing on their views and expertise on the topic of AI and teachers. So yeah, so ideally we would like to take a photo of all of us for this forum. So if you have a time, please open your camera. Thank you.
Yeah, let's take a picture together.
Cici, please open the camera. And also maybe Zhuqing, Yifan. So 3, 2, 1. Cheers. Okay, got it. Thank you so very much for that. Yeah, so I think we can just move on to our roundtable discussion. Jiaqi.
OK. 那下面将进入我们的圆桌讨论与答疑环节。
So now we're going to move on to the roundtable discussion, where we'll be both discussing about the core topics of AI and teachers, as well as questions from our audience.
OK， 首先是结合我们前面的分享，我们第一个问题关于教学设计和应用的相关问题。那么在这里呢，我们将邀请翟晓松老师和孙丹老师来分享他们的观点。第一个问题是，您认为教师在使用生成式 AI 辅助教学设计时有哪些优势？那么如何确保教学内容的质量和适用性呢？第二个问题是，除了像翻转课堂、编程教学等一些教育场景，您认为生成式人工智能还可以在哪些教学场景中碰撞出火花？那么您可以都回答所有的问题，当然也可以选择您 更感兴趣的问题进行回答。好。
So the first two questions will be proposed to Dr. Xu Zhai and Dr. Dan Sun, related to the application and the instructional design about generative AI in education. The first question is, what are the advantages for teachers using generative AI to assist instructional design? How to ensure the quality and applicability of the teaching content? The second question is, in addition to some educational scenarios such as flipped classroom and programming teaching, what other teaching scenarios do you think generative AI can collide with? Thank you.
Okay, from my part, is get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. From my part, I find this generative AI have many innovations in pedagogy design. For example, typically in the traditional classrooms, the teachers only take the roles of the instructors to transfer knowledge to students. While with the help of the ChatGPT, we can find that the class could be conducted in the format of the discussion. So teachers could have some discussion with the digital human beings empowered by ChatGPT, which makes the students feel very interesting that they receive the knowledge from make the judgments of the discussion rather than to receive the knowledge only from one voice. So I suppose that is the improvements of the pedagogical enhancements. Yeah. How about you, Sun Dan? What's your version?
Oh, yeah, I would like to say that, of course, like this kind of AI tools can bring a lot of advantages for teacher to facilitate their instructional design. And I would like to say, so recently there are a lot of some teams they want to create a large language model to automatically create instructional design for some teachers, which I heard this sharing today, and I found it's very interesting because, of course, for some for experienced teachers, it might very easy for them to produce their own or design their own instructional design very well. But for other fresh or brand new teachers, it really can help for them to create the instructional design or promote their own instructional design. And I also found it very interesting because sometimes for in college level classes, sometimes we need to this kind of AI tool can help us to translate the instructional design in different scenarios. For example, if we are teaching for our domestic students or for some international students for the same themes, then these tools can help us to better prepare or translate this instructional design content of this kind of instructional design very easily or very quickly. Yeah, and I also found it very important to ensure the quality of the instructional design because the AI can generate anything according to our to their knowledge. So the teachers they must have their own standards of what is a good instructional design. So they need to define the quality standards and benchmarks for instructional design content. And also, you should be the teachers always should be review the content generated from the AI tools, from the pedagogical aspect and also the practical aspect. Yeah, and last but not least, of course, the ethical and bias also should need to be taken into consideration to ensure the content generated from AI, they are not to be aware of this potential biases and this fairness thing. Yeah. So should we move to the other question or?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Does any guest have some insight of this question?
Oh, yeah, the second one, right? So aside from flipped classroom and programming instructions, of course, there are a lot of situations or scenarios we can apply AI, this kind of generative AI tools. But one thing come up to my mind is recently the GPT-4o mentioned by Professor Jai, right? So it's really, I found it really useful or effective way to practice your language, because recently one of my friend from America, he is learning Chinese, and I think he's very, except the Duolingo, I think the GPT-4o also can play a very important part in the language learning scenario. And also I also feel like the I was really interested in arts. So today we were also discussing this topic in another conference. It's like actually now everybody can create very artistic pictures, even if they are not very good at drawing or painting. So I think it's really a very fantastic way for students to create more creative things, including, for example, the painting or the drawing. And of course, there must be more. So I guess Professor Jai have more inspirations to share.
Yes, I can agree with more with the Sun Dan, since I suppose the art education, including music and drawing, is very useful with the help of the ChatGPT. You know that we have generated a new version of Metaverse. We are trying to combining the music education in these situations. And generative AI could help teachers and learners to generate this the music by the style, the prompts, and I suppose it is be very funny and interesting, and with the help of the GPT-4o, it's a multimedia transfer will be very easier from text to painting or text to voice. And I suppose there will be big potential for music education, especially in China. The educational sources are unbalanced. In some suburban areas, there's music teacher is very, very, very few. So the GPT-powered digital human beings may be a potential to help this people or students in a suburban area on the music education. Yes, I hope we could get more empirical studies in the future, but not testing the effects of it. Yeah, I'm trying to do it.
Thank you so very much for this perfect sharing. And to summarize, the teacher themselves should have the ability to assess the quality of generative content, and also generative AI could contribute to education equality by promoting more personalized and high quality content. So we've noticed that there are two audience raise their hands up. So we can first invite them to share their questions. And for audience, you could ask questions in your own preferred language, and we will translate that to our experts. 观众提问的话，可以用自己更倾向的语言，中文或者英文都可以。然后我们会将你们的静音解除。对。
Hello. I have a question about when you guys mentioned the ethical aspects of AI-generated teaching tools. I had a student that studies in China, and recently he wanted to know information on the Israel and Palestine conflict. And when he read the news in China, it's very different from what he searched up from Google. And he asked a question to ChatGPT for him to explain the conflict, and the answer that ChatGPT was able to give was very westernized from what he read. And I have a question here: that is AI biased when it comes to receiving and using the information?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think it's really good question because the hallucination and bias are embedded in AI technologies, and we would like to invite our experts and to answer this question. So anyone who would like to share your opinions can open your mic and answer that.
I could just say something quick from my perspective. We work with a lot of AI model researchers at Convey. The question of bias really comes from a lot of the data sources that the models are built on. So companies are spending a lot of time really trying to address this. But as we've seen with Google recently, it's, in trying to remove bias, sometimes you introduce new biases. So I think the goal of most open source models and most companies too that are trying to do a good job in balancing information is really just trying to broaden the amount of information that the model has access to. And traditionally, for better or worse, I guess most of the content on the internet, which is a lot of the content that the models are trained on, has been in English and tends towards a Western sort of viewpoint. But going forward, as models become more multimodal and better at all sorts of languages, it's more possible to incorporate information from many different cultures and regions of the world. So hopefully over time, these will get better. I've actually been pretty impressed with 4O's ability to provide a balanced answer to many of these kind of more controversial questions. But one of the other things that we can do as well when creating something like a tutor is actually instruct the model or the tutor to keep that sort of in mind when providing answers. So in other words, not just sort of give a viewpoint, but ask the student questions or ask the user questions, so that it really gets them to reflect deeper on some of these controversial questions.
I also want to jump in here to respond to that, particularly from the perspective of research on critical thinking and making sure that there is a balanced view provided by these models. And so it was interesting, the point that you mentioned, Jeff, is sometimes when you remove a particular viewpoint, it is then replaced by another viewpoint, and hence it remains in that cycle fashion of being biased. It's not only the case of I wanted to bring an example from the Western viewpoint as well, where I was, interacting with GPT. And so it was in the context of biases around gender as well. And so one of the things that, in terms of the prompts that was put in, and I would say, who would you award a certain job or an employment? Just broadly speaking, by these list of names. And so you'd give a certain list of Western sounding names and non-Western sounding names. And so you'd find that the Western sounding names would be given the job. And so I asked GPT, why is this the case? And so the response to that was because these names sound more traditional, more reliable. And that's the opposite of the non-Western sounding names, where they say it sounds that they would bring, different cultural viewpoints to the table, which in a way it's something that we want to mirror in society. We want differences in opinions, different in thoughts and backgrounds. So, and this was one of the things that also came out in the Project Amplifies, one of the broader questions. How do we define which voices to represent? What might that look like? And so it's a question that I don't have the answer to, but it's a question that the students are also discussing at this point.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, just quickly to build on Jeff and Sam's viewpoints, I strongly agree with both of you, and I just want to add. Actually, I would say bias can not really be reduced, because I think that every single person has their bias, due to their like the previous knowledge and backgrounds. But the key thing is like the how to understand the bias and navigate the bias, and how to especially understand, as Jeff said, like how to understand where bias come from. So for example, just giving another very similar example, Sam has shared, when I ask ChatGPT, like please give me successful people in their jobs, for example, successful doctor, successful lawyer. So ChatGPT generated like the all white men. So I was shocked actually, some of the gender bias and also like the culture bias, ethnicity bias, right? So, but I think the key here is like the critical thinking of the students and the teachers. So based on like these outputs, we may encourage students as a teacher may ask, okay, why the outputs are like that? What if question, and also maybe encourage them to search more facts to discuss with peers together and to understand like the why bias here and how to avoid bias and can make a better world. I think here is really important, especially now we are indeed like living a world with a lot of the bias and conflict, but how to navigate conflicts, cultural conflicts, political conflicts, and how to make this more understandable by diverse backgrounds of people. I think that is key. And also that's the value of a human, exactly.
Yeah, those are really perfect questions. And I think we can move on to the next question.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Dong Zhao, yeah. And could you please open your mic?
Oh, hi. 大家能听
Yes,
到吗？
hi, yeah, Dong Zhao.
嗨，老师们好，我想请问你们一个问题，就是当你们在设计以及构思 AI 如何辅助课堂更好发展，以及辅助教师的日常教学的时候，我想请问一下，对于一些特殊需求的群体，比方说自闭症儿童，或者说有一些其他 disability 的人群，你们会有怎样的一个案例吗？使用 AI 帮助他们更好的学习，帮助他们更好的去在课堂中进行融入，还是说就是相对于普通的我们就是日常正常的一些 AI 的设计，会有一些特殊的设计提供给他们呢？谢谢。
Yeah, so I will briefly translate Dong Zhao's question. So her question is that when we are applying AI technologies to scaffolding teachers and children in the classroom, what if the children's group are specialized or disability? So how we should consider the special design and application of the AI tools in these special scenarios? And do you think there's some special design considerations regarding to these scenarios?
Okay, may I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, in US there's a tool called Moxie AI. It's Moxie robot. As I demonstrate in my slide. So this AI just specific design, for kids and about age from 6 to 10. And this for more engagement, so it can just talk to storyteller, whatever. So this tool is very important for this kind of special kids, because they don't want to talk to the shy, they don't want to open mind to talk to real person. So this is this Moxie, okay, MOXIE. This AI robot is specifically for that kind of purpose. So you can search this too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks Paul for sharing. And I think there's lots of like AI products specially designed for specialized educational like scenarios and with some specialized design considerations, like how could like social robot help some children with ADHD with language learning or something like that. Yeah, do any experts have additional like opinions? If not, we can move on to our next discussion. All right, so Jackie, could you please share the slide so we can move on to
Yes, sure, yeah. Can you see the board talking chat board?
Oh, yeah. So for the second question is related to the issue of collaboration between teachers and AI. And we would like to ask two questions. The first is, do you have any stories to share about designing effective and innovative courses or other application using AI tools? The second question is, in teaching practices or products applications, what should the collaboration mode between teachers and AI would look like? We would like to invite Paul Poo and Jeff to share their opinions.
Go ahead, Paul, if you like.
Yeah, we could see your screen. But you are muted. Sorry, Paul.
Oh, I'm muted? Okay, let's see.
Oh, perfect.
I mute?
Yeah, now it's unmuted. Yeah.
Oh, it's unmuted. Okay. So this is my practice. So this is I use called inquiry-based learning with AI to help. So here basically this is I use different AI to help. This is knowledge book. This AI to handle this part. This is collaboration box. This is case study box. This assessment box. This experience box. This is project. So I have 5 different AIs to have to handle, because with AI, so teaching and learning is changed. So basically, we just first of all, student and teacher work together to build a knowledge base. So based on knowledge base, we divide student into different groups. For my case, in divided 4 different companies. So student for 4 students, just one group with AI work together to grow the company. This collaboration book. The discuss will collect data. So with collect data, we try our own AI model. So our own AI model become a tutor for next student, for next group of students. So by the collaboration, generate a lot of data. The data as a data source, we input our AI robot to use training model to try to become AI model. So I demonstrate you. The case study, we just use just success story in industry for business, how use AI to grow business. So assessment box, definitely we use AI to generate some assessment questions with multiple questions, whatever. Also, I use AI tools like GPT, GPT-0 to check if student cheating or whatever. I use AI tools. So this here, I use AI presenter, just simulate, she's already teacher, already finished this course, how she finished the project step by step to guide other students how to follow. So projects, same thing. Okay, so all I use different AI avatar or AI content to generate. Also, just together. So this course, I basically designed how to use AI to teach a course, also how to start AI. So in this course, I include AI education and AI in education together. This I designed. So based on new learning model called inquiry-based learning community, inquiry-based and community learning. So just apply AI to design the course. Okay, thank you.
Great, and I'll just add a couple of points there, I think. So when we're thinking about designing effective and innovative courses using AI, right? So a couple of important points, and I think, it's important to point out too that educational technology in general has a pretty poor history over the many years. I've been involved in it since over 25 years, I guess, and very little has changed in schools in terms of technology, aside from very generic kind of solutions. So, keeping all that in mind, I think, a couple of the things that are really critical and some reasons why maybe some previous technologies have failed is that teachers really need to be kept in the loop, right? So it's important that teachers have a critical role, and that beyond that, they have the opportunity to be creative and adapt the technologies to their specific situations, right? So I think I guess the democratization and the creative tools that are coming out now, I think are helping to make this easier. So lowering the barrier to entry, right, and making it possible to be much more adaptive to different conditions. The second thing I would just wanted to say as well is that we often leave the students out of the equation in terms of designers and participants in creating things. And one of the most interesting areas, I think, around this idea of characters that you can interact with is the concept of teachable agents. So this is where, drawing on the sort of fundamental ways that people learn, we know that, teaching or explaining concepts is a super incredibly potent way of learning, right? Because it highlights what you don't know and identifies gaps in your knowledge and so on. So it's possible using these AI technologies to have students generate backstories and create characters that are capable of doing certain things. In other words, you can start with kind of a blank slate character that doesn't know much about anything, and the students can teach the character in some ways. And then there'd be interesting ways of assessing how your character did in performing a particular task or doing something in the world. So I think there are lots of interesting ways of engaging students in the process as well.
Thank both of you to share your opinions, and I really appreciate the inquiry-based learning and how Jeff described the collaboration mode, and thank you so much. So considering time, we would have only 2 more questions about the teacher's professional development and ethical issues, and we would like to invite Sam and Tian Liu Dora to answer these 2 questions. So the first question would be, what specific skills and competencies should be prioritized in teacher professional development to prepare educators for the evolving landscape of AI-assisted teaching and learning? I've noticed that like the critical thinking or something else. And the second question is that how can we ensure that the implementation of AI in the classroom does not exacerbate existing inequalities in education, and what steps can be taken to promote equitable access to AI technologies for all students? Thank you.
I can start off, of course, from the critical thinking perspective, and the reason why I quite adamant about this in terms of, and this is separate and apart from technology, is really being able to foster teachers' understanding of critical thinking. In fact, back in 2019, Cambridge University Press released a survey of teachers' level of confidence in fostering critical thinking among students, and around 21% of teachers mentioned that they were not confident in doing so. And this was also reconfirmed in a year-long study that we did, and it was published last year in November 2023 in the Review of Education, when we did a scoping sort of approach looking at critical thinking development across Australia, England, and Norway. And we were looking at, we use a quasi-experimental approach towards the end, looking at comparisons between students who were exposed to the International Baccalaureate Learning Approach and those exposed to the national curriculum in each of these 3 countries. And we found that by and large, particularly in England and in Australia, that the International Baccalaureate students were outperforming students, the national curriculum students in critical thinking. And so when we interviewed the teachers and also students, it was clear to us that they weren't comfortable with how to foster critical thinking. And so with the implementation of technology, it comes on the heels of these underpinning problems that teachers and students are not sure how to go about doing that. And so I think this needs to be prioritized in teacher training programs around how to go about doing that, making sure that they have that level of disposition as well when they do acquire those skills, making sure that students are readily available despite their maybe ideologies, maybe despite the values, not losing those personal aspects that make them who they are, but also being willing to open their minds to other ways of thinking to create more balanced views. So I'll pause there, invite Kian to the conversation.
Thanks, Sam. I echo with you, like especially at critical thinking. I think that is very key to teachers, especially in the age of the AI. And in addition to that, I would like to elaborate on 3 key things from my personal perspective. So linked to what I introduced earlier about dialogic education. So I would say dialogic mindset and skills is paramount for teachers, and that should be considered in teacher professional development. So why for that? So firstly, I think that it's a really important with the technology or without technology, it's really important to understand for teachers where knowledge comes from and how knowledge is created and shared. So who plays the key role? And I think that is a question about epistemology, right? Isn't it? Like the ways of the knowing and the ways of the how to learn and the share learnings. So even without technology, we from the very long ago, so we know like the learn from like the talked with different people. We know like secret like the answer question and asking questions. So I think it's a really important, and specifically in relation to the AI, I would say. In practice, the teacher can learn like how to use their dialogic skills and the deposition. They probably can design like better, higher quality prompts while using generative AI tools. In addition, they could learn how to design tutors because they need to give like the instructions, right? And also they should consider like what when designing tutors, like the instruction and the alignment between the instruction and the learning objective and the needs of the learner, especially while constructing this relationship. Still, like the teachers are in the process of having the dialogue with the different objects and people, isn't it? And thirdly, like especially now we are entered the age of the multi-agents. It's more important than probably in the future. Teacher may think about like how to use their dialogical thinking to design like the different roles, because that for me, like the future education is to design a broader dialogue space with a different real people and with a different like the virtual roles. So that's actually teacher may be more like the director. So really think about workflow, different roles, and how this can be aligned with again learning objectives and learners' needs. So yeah, dialogical mindset I think is really important. So building on that, just to add like the two other points, AI literacy, again very important. So I remember like the last week when I attended a conference, people asked me, so now ChatGPT is very popular, so for learning coding, so what is the meaning for learning coding? So ChatGPT is really good at debugging, and I say like actually, so when we design AI, so we try to let the computers to think like a human. So why we learn coding and like the computing? So because we want to understand why computer and how computer works and AI works. So because we understand each other just when dating and going marriage, we understand from each other from their own perspective. So then we can have probably a more richer dialogue and stimulates the collaboration because we understand each other. We know who we are and how we collaborate. Certainly, I strongly agree with Sam, like in the previous presentation. I think the ethic is really, really important for teachers because AI indeed will create and is now creating a lot of the possibilities. So for teachers in the classroom and in education practice, they really need to understand what can we do, what can not do, especially when students or students will become like the future citizens in the global world. That is really important. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the sharing. And Jiaqi.
Yeah, thank you all the guests for your sharing and yeah. 好的，感谢大家。在今天的论坛当中呢，我们不仅看到了生成式 AI 为教育带来的巨大潜力和机遇，也认识到 在实际应用中所面临的挑战和相关的问题。
Yeah, so through today's sharing, we have realized and know the practical and theoretical challenges, experiences, and wisdom in combining AI and education.
通过我们各位嘉宾的深刻见解和实际案例的分享，我们对 AI 与教育的深度融合也有了更清晰的认识和更坚定的信心。那么未来我们也希望能够加强人工智能与教育的融合，能够推动更多创新和应用的落地。
So in the future, we believe that there will be opportunities and potentials to embed AI into all and other educational contexts.
最后再次感谢各位嘉宾的分享，也祝各位嘉宾、老师和同学在今后的生活和工作中呢一切顺利。也欢迎大家继续关注我们的论坛，我们的下一场论坛将在6月2日20点到23点进行我们的游戏教育主题的分享。
So finally, we would like to express our greatest gratitude once again to all of our guests and for your valuable insights and all the audience for joining us. And this sub-forum is running to its end, and please feel free to reach out to us by following us on social media. And the next forum will be in today's evening about the game-based learning. Feel free to follow us. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.